You felt it this morning. A dry throat, a dull headache, maybe that heavy feeling behind your eyes. So you opened a cabinet, grabbed a small white pill, swallowed it with water, and continued your day like nothing happened. You probably forgot about it 5 minutes later. But that pill is not normal. That tiny thing in your hand is the result of tens of thousands of years of fear, pain, experiments, mistakes, plants, wounds, rituals, and people refusing to let each other die. Before pharmacies, before hospitals, before doctors in white coats, getting sick was not a minor inconvenience. Getting sick could remove you from the world. 50,000 years ago, a fever was not just a fever. A broken bone was not just an injury. A bad tooth, infected skin, a stomach parasite, a deep cut, a cough that would not stop. Any one of these could become the thing that ended your life. And yet ancient humans survived. They survived without knowing what bacteria were, without knowing what viruses were, without microscopes, without antibiotics, without surgery rooms. So how did they do it? The answer is stranger, darker, and more impressive than most people realize. Ancient medicine did not begin with science. It began with care. Start with one of the most important clues ever found, Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. Inside that cave, researchers discovered the remains of ancient human relatives who should not have survived as long as they did. One individual had severe injuries and disabilities. He had damage to his body, problems with movement, and evidence that he could not have lived like a normal hunter. He could not simply run with the group, hunt like the strongest adults, or survive alone. By the brutal logic of nature, he should have disappeared quickly. But he did not. He lived for years. That means someone helped him, someone shared food, someone protected him, someone kept him near the fire. Someone decided that a weak person was still worth keeping alive. That is where healthcare begins. Not in a hospital, not in a book, around a fire, with one person feeding another, with a group choosing care over abandonment. This is one of the oldest forms of medicine on Earth. Not a drug, not a tool, but a decision. The decision to keep someone alive even when they can no longer help in obvious ways. And once humans started caring for the sick, they started asking the next question. What else can we do? The first pharmacy was not a building, it was the forest. Long before people understood infection or inflammation, they were testing plants, leaves, roots, bark, mushrooms, seeds, smoke, bitter things, sweet things, things that soothed pain, things that made vomiting worse, things that helped a wound close, things that killed you if you guessed wrong. This knowledge was expensive because it was bought with suffering. Someone tried the wrong plant and died. Someone tried another and survived. Someone noticed. Someone remembered. Someone taught the next child not to eat the deadly one and to save the useful one. We know ancient people were not just randomly chewing plants because the evidence is still stuck to their bodies and teeth. Ötzi the Iceman, a mummy preserved in the Alps for over 5,000 years, was found carrying pieces of birch polypore mushroom. That was not decoration. It was useful. Those mushrooms contain compounds that may help with inflammation and parasites, and Ötzi himself showed signs of intestinal parasites. He may have been carrying his own medicine. A man walking through the mountains, sick inside, carrying fungus because someone before him had learned that it helped. But this relationship with medicinal plants is much older than Ötzi. Researchers studying ancient dental plaque have found traces of bitter plants that were not good food, plants that may have been used because they changed how the body felt. Imagine a Neanderthal with a painful mouth, a sick stomach, or a fever, chewing bitter plants not because they tasted good, not because they gave calories, but because they did something. They did not know the chemistry. They knew the result. And then there is willow bark. For thousands of years, humans chewed bark from willow trees to ease pain and fever. The active compound in willow bark is related to the chemistry behind aspirin. So when you swallow a modern painkiller, You are not using something completely separate from the past. You are using the refined descendant of a very old human habit. Find the tree, chew the bark, remember what works. But ancient medicine did not stop with plants. When pain was too strong, when sickness looked like it came from inside the head, humans did something that sounds almost impossible. They opened the skull. This practice is called trepanation. Archaeologists have found ancient skulls with carefully made openings in many parts of the world. Some of those people survived long enough for the bone to begin healing around the edges. That means this was not always random damage. It was a procedure. A terrifying one, yes, but also a practiced one. What were they trying to treat? Maybe severe headaches, maybe seizures, maybe injuries, maybe mental distress, maybe pressure after a blow to the head. They did not know the brain the way modern medicine does, but they had noticed a pattern. Something was wrong inside the head, and maybe opening the bone could help. It sounds horrifying to us, but it also shows something incredible. Ancient people were not passive. They experimented. They observed. They took risks. They tried to repair the body with the tools they had. And someone had to know how to do all of this. Someone had to know which plant helped pain, which plant caused sickness, which mushroom to carry, which wound needed heat, which fever needed warmth, which bone could be set, which patient should be watched through the night. In many ancient societies, that person was the healer, sometimes called a shaman, sometimes a medicine person, sometimes something else. But the role was the same, the keeper of survival knowledge. The healer was not only mixing herbs, the healer was the group's memory. They remembered which roots helped childbirth, which leaves reduced swelling, which bark calmed pain, which smoke kept insects away, which wound smell meant danger, which dreams, symptoms, and changes in behavior meant someone might not survive the night. Their knowledge was not stored in books. It lived in practice, stories, rituals, songs, and repeated demonstrations. Lose the healer, and a group could lose generations of medical knowledge at once. This is why some ancient healer burials were treated with unusual care. In several prehistoric burial sites, archaeologists have found individuals buried with special objects, animal parts, tools, ornaments, and signs of social importance. Whether every interpretation is certain or not, the pattern tells us something important. The people who dealt with sickness, fear, and healing mattered deeply. They stood between the living and the unknown. And then there was fever. Today, many people panic when body temperature rises, but fever is not simply the body failing. Fever is often the body fighting. It makes the inner environment harder for some invaders to survive. Ancient people did not know immune cells or pathogens, but they learned behavior. When someone burned with fever, groups often kept them close, warm, watched, and cared for. They gave fluids when they could. They waited, they protected. Sometimes they used plants, sometimes they used ritual. Sometimes all they could do was stay near the person until the body either won or lost. That is the quiet tragedy of ancient sickness. Many children did not survive. Many infections won. Many small wounds became disasters. Many mothers, fathers, hunters, children, and elders were lost to things modern medicine now treats in minutes. But humanity survived because knowledge survived. A plant that helped was remembered. A wound treatment was repeated. A fever pattern was noticed. A healer taught an apprentice. A grandmother showed a child which bark to chew. A group carried an injured person instead of leaving them behind. The next time you swallow a pill, you are touching the end of a very long chain. At one end is a clean tablet in a modern hand. At the other end is someone crouched in a cave, chewing bitter bark, holding a feverish child near a fire, tying fungus to a cord, washing a wound, watching a sick friend through the night, and remembering what worked. We did not invent medicine all at once. We inherited it piece by piece. From pain, from fear, from plants, from mistakes, from care. Modern medicine looks different now. White walls, lab tests, names we cannot pronounce, Machines, charts, chemicals, but underneath all of it is the same ancient human instinct. Someone is suffering, so we try something. We watch, we learn, we pass it on. Medicine began as memory, and every pill you take is part of that memory.